Welcome to MUFON Midwest, where we discuss some of the most interesting UFO, UAP sightings in the heartland. MUFON field investigators and eyewitnesses share their amazing experiences with the public on this podcast. And now, here's your host for MUFON Midwest, Margie Kay.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. I do want to mention a couple of items that are coming up. The MUFON Symposium for 2026 is coming up in August this year. And there are two keynote speakers that you will not want to miss. They're both very good. Peter Robbins, of course, had a show on our network for quite some time, and I know him very well. He's an excellent speaker. You will definitely enjoy him. And Alex Dietrich, I have not seen her, but I'm sure she's fantastic, as are all the other speakers. So do check that out at mufonsymposium.com. And then, of course, this podcast is put on by the Central Region. If you would like to join us, if you go to centralregionmufon.org or mufoncentralregion.org, you can sign up for our newsletter. As long as you're a MUFON member, you can get the newsletter. You don't have to live in our region. If you have an interest in what is going on here, we are happy to have you. And of course, if you are in the Central Region, we'd like to have you join MUFON and join us and attend our meetings. The states in this area are North and South Dakota, Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas, and Missouri, my home state. This evening, we have a special guest. Oh my gosh. Dev Rugne, and I hope I didn't torture your name too badly, has over 45 years of UFO and independent investigative experience. She became interested in UFOs at an early age and has had many UFO sightings. In 1977, after talking with Betty Hill, she pursued her quest to become a UFO investigator and researcher. In January of 2008, she joined MUFON and became the Oregon MUFON Chief Investigator. In April of 2009, MUFON International launched the Star Impact Project. Dev was hired to conduct SIP investigations for Oregon MUFON. She was also hired for the SIP dispatch operator position, monitoring MUFON's database for incoming sighting reports that met the criteria for rapid deployment. Moving back to Northern California in early 2010, she became a section state director for 7 counties, then became the chief investigator later that year, and finally the assistant state director, a title she held for over 10 years. Dev has been on many UFO-related radio shows, podcasts, and a couple of TV shows like Mysteries of the Outdoors, Season 2, Episode 10. And in 2021, she released her book, UFO Investigator, a personal look into circumstances, investigations, and discovery. Welcome to the program, Dev.
Hi, Margie. Thank you for having me.
Now, I hope I didn't butcher your last name too badly there.
No, that was pretty good. It's Rugne. The G is silent.
Oh, silent G, Rugne. Okay, I will remember that. And of course, you're the state director for California. And California is consistently in the top 5 and top number 1 a lot of the time for cases, UFO sightings. Why do you think that is?
Well, let me just say, yes, because California has a large population and we have a lot of sightings being reported to MUFON. We are divided by North and South. So I am the Northern California State Director. And then Southern California has their own jurisdiction. They have 13 counties and we have 45 counties up here. The reason why it seems unbalanced like that is they have only 13 counties, but it's very populated in the LA area. So they do get quite a bit. I believe the reason why California continues to be one of the number 1 states of being reported by people reporting to MUFON is the fact that we have a large population here, and the weather is always really nice. So, during the winter, there's a lot of times where it's sunny and, everybody's outside. So really beautiful weather year round. Yes, we get rain and that kind of thing. There is snow up in the higher levels, but everybody's out and about. And if they're outside and they see stuff, this is, one of the reasons why we have a lot of UFO sightings being reported.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense. I wonder also, I did an investigation in the Sonoma County area a few years ago. It wasn't through MUFON. And this person contacted me through another investigator. So basically, she had a lot going on. Let me put it that way. And so I wonder, so during the investigation, I found out there's a lot of strange things happening in Sonoma County. Have you done any investigations there, and what do you know about that place?
Well, there's several counties that I think continue to be hot spots. Sonoma, I did do a case there that was very interesting, where this man and woman, they were a couple. They saw this huge object come over them, and this happened in that Sonoma County area, and it was huge. It just took up a lot of the sky, and as it continued to go, I believe east, the woman called her mother to go outside to see it. The strangest thing is they were standing on some stairs of an apartment building, and they could still see it as it was flying away. And when she called her mother to go outside and look up, because she shouldn't have missed it, she couldn't see anything. It was very strange. But it was really amazing because the man who reported it, he actually could see an opening in the back, and the way he described, there were like these drum-like things inside he could see. I tried to get a drawing from him, but he had to leave the state to go see his brother who became ill. So I tried to continue to, reach out to him to get some more information, because it was kind of fascinating how huge this object was. But he never really responded back. So as you know, we have Yosemite National Park here. The beautiful thing about California is we have the ocean, we have the woods, we have the mountains, we have the desert.
Mm-hmm.
We have it all. And so it's very fascinating to hear people having experiences and sightings in the different regions of that kind of landscape, whether they're in the woods and camping or what have you. It has a really cool backdrop of where they're at, whether they're at the ocean or what. But
well, I'm glad you mentioned that type of landscape and the different areas and different climates, actually. Is there any one in particular that seems to have more UFO sightings than another?
You mean as far as location or locale or county? Well, again, because I'm the one that's responsible for Northern California, which is actually from Fresno up to the Nevada border, to the Oregon border, and then to the ocean. So anything south of Fresno, I wouldn't know.
Okay.
But Yosemite is in my jurisdiction. So there's been a few cases there that are very interesting as far as like missing time, that kind of thing, when they see a UFO or, that kind of thing.
Well, that's good to know because I'm going there this summer.
Oh, you are?
Yeah. My husband and I and a friend are going to take a trip there. So, yeah, I was wondering how many missing people are there in Yosemite?
Well, according to David Pilates, who does the Missing 411, Yosemite is like number one.
Oh,
in the world. In the world.
Great. I'm going to hook up with you and take you with us for protection.
Yeah, it's well, of course, I've been there and a few times. It's gorgeous, and I think that's what is the saddest thing is, places like that are just amazing and beautiful. And yet there's this underlying, thing of people missing, or there's a lot of UFO sightings out that way. I don't know if those really go hand in hand.
It just makes you wonder, though.
Well, I do a lot of research on the 411 missing thing because David talks about different cases that, especially in the national parks, really point to a possibility that this could be UFO related because people talk about they're walking and, the sound of the forest with the birds and the bugs. And then all of a sudden, everything goes dead quiet. And I know that one of his cases, he talked about where a guy was walking on a trail and that exact thing happened. All of a sudden, everything just went quiet and he stopped and it got his attention. And in front of him, things were kind of a little fuzzy. It was very strange. So he reached his hand out and then his hand started to disappear. So it was almost like a portal, right? And of course that he pulled his hand back because it was like, whoa, right? And he just kind of looked around like, what's going on? And then he turned around and walked away. Luckily, because if that was truly a portal that led to wherever, and he just walked right into it, he's gone, right? And, who's to say once you're in something like that, you lose your ability to figure out how to get back out? I think that's a little on the scary side,
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
a lot of people
there was a TV show about the missing 411, and they talked about one man who disappeared in the forest. Nobody could find him. And then one day, I don't know how much later, maybe a year later, he shows up on the streets, I think in LA, just walking down the street, and he's wearing the clothes that he still had on. And he just thought it was one minute to the next. He had no idea where he was or how he got to this new place.
Yeah. Isn't that just
crazy?
Yeah. Well, that's one person that came back then, right?
Right. But usually they don't.
There's a lot that haven't.
Yeah.
So again, when we're dealing with something like that, where it's a portal. Now, I have had two cases out here where someone, and they were both during the day. One of them was up in the El Dorado County area. There's a park, and I know where exactly that is because I used to work in that town for a while. And the lady, she went to the park, and I think she had like a baby stroller. She was there having some lunch, and she ended up, when you're just kind of looking around and then you look up in the sky because you're admiring the beautiful day, She said an opening in the sky. There was this opening, and what was coming in and out were these objects. Because at first she saw like what she thought were birds, kind of way up there flying around. And she said, so I thought I was looking at a bunch of birds just kind of, flying around together. And that's when she saw this opening in the sky, open up. And then these things were just darting in and out. And she realized, when she really looked at it, she realized they weren't birds, because they weren't shaped like birds, right? So she was just amazed by what she was seeing, because it was clear that they were going into the sky like somewhere else. She didn't use that word portal or anything. She just said an opening. There was this in the sky. There was this opening that opened up, and that these objects were coming in and out of it. Another case I had where it was off of Highway 101, I believe in the Palo Alto area, was a young man who was a teenager at the time. And he said that his parents were at work, and he had come home from school, and it was a really warm day, and they had a pool. And he went up kind of like on the roof in a way. It wasn't as high as you would think, but he said he wanted to jump into the pool from the balcony area. But he looked up and he was admiring the day, and he saw this shimmering in the sky, and it was like an opening. And he says in the hole of the opening were these colors. And he goes, that's what made me realize I'm looking inside a hole in the sky to somewhere else. And again, there were these objects. He said they were like circular silver objects that were kind of hovering around the opening, and then some were going in and some were coming out. So it's very interesting. I would love to see that. I would really love to see that. Yeah. So I believe that's in my book. I've done about almost 1,200 cases for MUFON since 2008. And sometimes you have so much in your head, so many different sightings that you find
you can't separate them.
It's hard to remember every little detail of one, certain ones. But
well, I'll tell you what, I have your book. I pulled it out 2 days ago. I had already had it. Well, I can't even show it. And I actually read most of it. It is absolutely fascinating.
Oh, thank you.
So,
I really, the funny thing about this book is, for decades, I knew that I wanted to write a book about UFOs, right? But I didn't know how to start it. And I am a big proponent of psychic ability, right? And I used to go to many different psychics over the years, over the decades, for different reasons. I always found it really amazing when someone would tell me something that there would be no way they could know. And they would always say the same thing to me. When are you going to write the book? When are you going to write? And I would go, well, I don't know. I don't know how to start it. But it was so funny was I had this Word document on my desktop, and it was the summer of '69. That's all I had, because that was the year that this took place, that I was taken. And then, because I didn't know how I wanted to lay out the book, I didn't know how to start. And then it just came to me one day, boom. And I knew exactly how I wanted to lay it out, because I'm very fascinated by all the different shaped UFOs that people seen. And that's why I wanted to separate the different, I think it's chapters 3 through 6 are different shaped UFOs. And I did 30 of my investigations I put in the book. I was going to put more, but it was starting to get, kind of laborious. But I'm an artist, but I don't really do anything with it. So my whole life I've always, drew things, but for years I just didn't do anything with it. So I really love art. I love other people's work. And I'd always encourage people, if they had a close encounter, please, I'd love a drawing. And if they said, well, I don't really draw very good. And I'd say, that's okay. Just give me what you remember seeing as far as the shape, and if there was lights or whatever, domes, whatever you remember seeing. And so I took these drawings and I hired digital artists to try to make them come to life. And I wanted the book to be in color because I wanted the colors that they saw to be a part of that and it to really pop. I didn't want a book that was just words. I'm a very visual person, so I wanted it to be a visual book in a sense, to try to bring these stories to life. And I wanted to write this book for just anyone who was interested in the topic. And I wasn't writing it for other investigators or anything like that. I really just wanted it to be an easy read and something fun and interesting that people would be able to pick up and, not be a laborious where, am I going to ever get through this, type thing. Even my mother, who has just passed away, she picked it up and read it. And I was surprised when she told me that, and she doesn't read books. She just, she was never that type of person where, she read books. But she told me, I read your book. I said, you're kidding. I go, oh, that's great, Mom. And she's like, oh, it's pretty interesting. But then again, I used to drive her nuts with reading abduction stories back in the 70s when I was a teenager. And she's like, are you trying to scare me? And I go, no, but I'm so, my parents knew I was knee deep in this. And
right. Yeah. And we're going to get into the reason why in just a few minutes after this very short 1-minute break. We will be back right after this. And we're back with MUFON Midwest. I'm your host, Margie Kay, and we are speaking with Dev Rugne this evening from Northern California. She is the Northern California MUFON State Director, and she has a story of her own to tell, which I am hoping we will get into right now because, people who are in this business, so to speak, are usually here for a reason, and a lot of times it's because they had their own experiences. Do you find that to be true with your other investigators?
Funny thing is, no. Isn't that funny?
Oh, wow.
Yes. In fact, I have one investigator, Bob. He always says, I've never seen anything. And yet he's very interested in this topic. So, but I know that there are countless investigators out there and people that are in the UFO community who have had their own experiences and believe that that's what led them on this path.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And they eventually get there, it seems.
Yeah.
Eventually come to us. So your experiences started at a young age. Can you take us through that?
Yeah. So I was just a normal kid. It was in the summer. School was out. I was around 11. I wouldn't have turned 12 until October. So my mother, would always tell us kids to go outside and play because she always wanted to clean the house or maybe have the TV to herself. And and in those days, there was no computers, no cell phones, no internet, nothing.
Right.
And because this was 1969, so all you do is go outside and play
Right.
with other children. What I was doing was the house we were living in had this tree in the front yard. It was pretty big. And whoever planted that tree planted it on a man-made mound, a circular mound. And I would say, it was about maybe 3 feet in diameter, 3 or 4 feet in diameter. And then the mound was encased with this like kind of like a dark gray coral like kind of rock, had little holes in it all around. It was kind of sharp to the touch, but nothing too dangerous. So I'd be sitting up in that tree all the time, spying on the other kids. I don't know if I was playing like cowboy and Indians or, that kind of stuff, but I was spying on the other kids and was up there every day for hours, daydreaming. I had, a cat, and I think I was trying to encourage it to come up the tree, but so one day I was up in the tree, and then the next moment I'm like waking up off the ground, coming to consciousness about 6 feet away from the base. Now I was very tall and thin at that, when I was young, and so being in the tree, and you're sticking your body in between the main branches, you're not going to fall out. And here's the thing. I would have known if I would have fell, because you fall, straight down. You don't fall way
Right.
over there. You would just fall. And when I was waking up off the ground, I thought, what happened? And I stood up, brushed myself off, looked up at the tree, and I knew I was up there. And I walked over, I looked up, and I looked over where I was, and I knew I didn't fall. But why am I waking up? How did I get over there? So I was very perplexed about that. And, I'm a kid. So after I gave it some thought, I just forgot about it. Didn't think nothing of it. But at that time of my life, it seemed very sudden that I had this interest in watching all those B movies, those Earth versus the Flying Saucers and all that. And I loved that stuff. And my mom, she would always say, go outside and play, because she didn't really want me in the house when she's trying to vacuum and everything. But I also remember at that time, the moon landing and all that. So everything was, the moon this, the moon that, there was a lot of advertisement. And so, it was a lot about that, because I remember there'd be these little figurines of, astronauts or stuff at that time of when this happened. I totally forgot about that. And I kept, climbing up on the roof and laying up there staring at the sky, wondering what's out there in the space and beyond, right? And my mother was just losing it because she was yelling at me to get off the roof. And, she finally was like getting mad because I kept going up there. Whenever she'd tell me to stop going up there, I was still going up there. And then finally she was like, look, why do you keep doing that? Why do you keep going up there? And I says, well, I want to be up by the sky. I want to look at the sky. And she's like, didn't make any sense to her. And she said, look, we're renting this place. You can't be up there. What if something happened, like you fell through? Oh, well, never mind about me breaking my neck, right?
Right. Yeah, you're going to hurt the house. Oh, my gosh.
Well, I didn't understand it at the time because I was a child, but apparently the landlady was not too thrilled about the fact that we had 4 kids in our family, because she thought the more kids there are, the more we're going to destroy your property.
Right.
So I think my mother was worried about getting kicked out because we were already, we had 4, but we were all 4 girls. So it wasn't like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So anyway, so just going forward, I was just obsessed with UFOs. I mean, every day thinking about that. And there was so right about that time that that happened, where I was waking up off the ground, I remember, my mom, I was the oldest of 4 girls. And so she relied on me to always, help her with the younger girls. So anyway, I remember her telling me, okay, it's time to go to bed. And so I went to bed. And then after she closed the door, I got up and I would just stare out the window at the stars. And I felt like I was left behind. And I remember crying, like, you left me behind. And I didn't know who I was referencing that. And the funny thing is, it wasn't like I was unhappy with my family life. No, I love my parents. I love my family. So it wasn't that. And as the years were going by, I always remembered me crying, looking out at the stars, thinking I was left behind. And I had wondered, why did I feel that way when I loved my family? It wasn't like I wanted to escape. I didn't want someone to take me away. I didn't want to be somewhere else. So I always remembered that. And then, so as the time went on, I just was more and more trying to get my hands on UFO magazines, going to the library, looking for, books on the subject to learn more and more and do, kind of research. And my dad was like asking me, I think I was a junior in high school, and he says, well, what do you want to do with your life? And I said, I want to investigate UFOs. And he goes, I'm talking about a real job. And I said, well, and, he was just kind of frustrated with the fact that my head was, I guess, in the clouds. And he said, I know this is a hobby, right? He goes, I know you have an interest in this. He goes, but, real life is you got to get a real job and, that kind of thing, or go to school or, whatever. And so I started to go to college, and I was taking a lot of astronomy classes because I was so into astronomy. I was really fascinated by the birth and death of stars. Mm-hmm. But anyway, and so, I was living a normal life of a teenager, friends and everything. I loved sports and stuff. So, but I always was thinking about UFOs, but remembering my dad telling me to be careful, to talk about that because people think you're crazy. Mm-hmm. And he goes, you don't want that. You do not want someone to think you're crazy. I said, okay. Because I was very open about talking about this stuff. And I know he was just trying to protect me, but, I just said, you know what, Dad, UFOs, you wait. That's going to be a household word. Well, my dad just passed away in 2024. And we always talked about all this stuff. And he says, boy, your whole life, that's all you talked about. And well, I guess you were kind of right about it all. And then, he saw my book and, he said, oh, he thought it was good. It was, great that I did that. But he knew, he saw me growing up, being so interested in this. But I started having like UFO sightings, like at close range. Like one of them was, I think it was 83. I walked out into the backyard because my cat was out there and I was going to bring her in, which I didn't understand why she was out there in the first place. I'd never let her out. And nobody was home, but my dad had just got home from work and he was laying on the couch with the TV on, kind of dozing. I walked out to the backyard and I heard this like low hum. And then I looked over and I gasped. I have never gasped in my entire life since then or afterwards. But this huge object was just sitting there between the two houses. And it was oblong shaped. And it was a 2-story house. So half of it, when I first walked out, I only saw half of it. And I think it was about, I would say, about 10 to 15 feet of what I could see. Mm-hmm. And then I looked at it because it startled me, just sitting there. And I just went, okay, it's the Goodyear blimp. No problem. And right. I just turned around and walked out to the backyard calling my cat. And I picked her up and I was almost afraid to turn around. I'm about 24 years old at the time. Mm. And I was knee deep in UFO research and everything. And I was almost afraid to turn around because I didn't want to see it. And I thought to myself, oh, stop, just turn around. So I started walking towards the house and I didn't look at it. And then I went, just look at it. And I looked up, shit, still there. And it was just still there and just hovering, just there. And I just wanted to get in the house. I put the cat down. I said, Dad, the Goodyear blimp's going to hit the house. And when I said that, I knew I was sounding ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And he goes, uh-huh. He's half asleep. And the funny thing is, I put the cat down. I tell him that. And then I didn't remember what happened after that. And it always bugged me because I should have been investigating this, right? I should have been getting out there, going underneath it, going out to the front to see the rest of it. I mean, everything. And I don't know. And then
when you're in the thick of it, it is completely different. Right.
And so, yeah. And so, but I just don't, this was like about 7:00 at night. This wasn't late. My mother was working at Mervin's. My sisters were gone at their friends. My dad had just got home. So he's just kind of relaxing. And I'm 24, so I'm not going to bed at 7:00. So what did I do? What happened? I don't know. So, as time went on, I was still seeing UFOs or whatever. UFO magazine, I subscribed to it. Mm-hmm. And in 1990, one of the issues profiled a local hypnotherapist. And I'm trying to remember her name, my brain. And I read about her and I thought, you know what, if she's being profiled here in UFO magazine, she'd be safe to go to and she wouldn't think I was crazy. So I went to her. Helen Billings is her name. Mm-hmm. And So I went to see her, but I was really nervous. I had never been hypnotized before. I didn't know what to expect. And, she put me under, and there was there was like a block. I couldn't see anything. And she says, well, sounds like I think you're blocked. I don't know if it's you or something else. And she said, can I ask you a question? She brought me out. She said, can I ask you a question? Are you ready to know the truth? And I said, no, because I was scared. I thought,
Sure.
What am I going to find out? And she said, well, let me try something else. So she puts me back under, and she asked me, when's the first time you've seen a UFO? Well, I remember. That's not what I said. I could hear myself talking about standing on a ledge. I could see it. I'm standing on a ledge. I'm looking down at the desert floor, and there was this cylindrical object laying on the floor. But I said, because that's what I'm seeing, and I said, the canoe people come from the stars and talk to my father, who was the chief. So I was a Native American boy.
And
Past
life.
Yes. And then she goes, what? She goes, wait a minute, what year is this? And because the way I was describing things, and my father, the chief. And then she goes, okay, wait a minute, what year is this? And I think I said the early 1800s or something. And so our tribe called them the canoe people, because they came in a canoe, but it was really a cylindrical object. But that's all we could really associate it to, a canoe. Right. So I couldn't believe I was saying this, but I could see it. In fact, she told me to look down. She goes, are you male or female? I go, I'm male. I'm a boy. And I had this like a cloth over my privates there. And I knew how that was made and everything. It was just amazing. And then she said, let me ask you, who do you know in that lifetime that you know in this lifetime? And I said, my nephew, my favorite nephew. And I could see that he was my baby brother in that lifetime. And I started crying. And it brought me out of the regression. And I felt embarrassed that I was crying like a fool. And I said, I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm crying. She goes, no, don't apologize. She goes, you love him. I said, I do. And she goes, well, that love is bringing out the emotion that you knew him before. And I said, yeah, because I knew that's true. He was my baby brother then, and now he's my nephew, who I just, when he was born, I adored him, and I was his favorite person. So it was
connected.
So it was very interesting that I learned that's how I knew this was real. My reaction, the emotion. And but we never found anything out, because she says it's either you're not ready and you're blocking this, or somebody else or something else is blocking you. And then I said, I'm fine with that, because I really wasn't at that time ready. And so, as time was going on, weird stuff was happening. I was having like paranormal stuff that was very strange, especially when I was driving, and this happened a couple of times. One instance that happened is I was driving to Jackson, this town, where I was going to meet the rest of my family. We were all going to have like a meal at a restaurant for somebody's birthday or something. And I had 3 other people in the car with me. So somebody was sitting in the front and then 2 in the back. And we're driving on Highway 16, and it's kind of like desolate out there. And this was during the day. So I'm just driving and we're talking and laughing. And there was a blue older model car in front of me. And I was thinking, this guy is going too slow. I said, should I pass him up? They're going, yeah, pass him up. So I and left him in the dust, and I could see his car in my rearview mirror. And it was I don't know what kind of car it was, but it was an older model, and it was like powder blue. So it was very unusual. Okay. And I just took off, and this was like there's nothing out there. Right. Mm-hmm. So there's like, it's one of those 2-lane roads. Right. And we come to this next, this little town right before Jackson, and it's called Martell. And there were signs saying that they were going to come to a stop. So I started to slow up because there was a few cars waiting because there was construction going on. And we're sitting there, and I'm staring at the car in front of me, and then it dawns on me, wait a minute. What? I said, hey, you guys, isn't that the car I passed up miles back? And they're like, no way. And I go, oh my God, what's going on? And they're like, oh my God, they're freaking out. And I was looking at it thinking, you can't mistake this car because of the color, and it was an older model. How did it get in front of us? I don't know. That freaked me out.
I'll bet.
It's like, no way. This doesn't make any sense. But yeah, a lot of paranormal stuff. And then I started to kind of feel like I was being psychic. Like more and more. You know what's so funny is so back in the 90s, I could go into, there's Lake Tahoe up here. I don't know if you're familiar with California, but Lake Tahoe is, there's a lot of gambling because you're on the other side you're in Nevada. So Nevada, you could gamble at the casinos. Well, I had a really bad neck, and I was getting a lot of headaches. And so I told my girlfriend, I said, I want to go to Tahoe because I need to buy a bed. I need, a really expensive mattress because my neck and back is really messed up. And I said, so let's go. And she said, well, I don't have any money. And I said, oh, I've got $20. And she goes, really? I said, no, it's okay. I said, just pack an overnight bag and we're going to go. I got a full tank of gas. So we drive up there, get there about lunchtime or so. And she goes, well, what are we going to do about food? I'm hungry. I said, yeah, let's get a hot dog and a soda. So I had a $20 bill. So I buy that, each a hot dog and a drink. And that left me $4 to gamble.
That's cutting it close.
But I knew I can locate the machine that would win. So I said to her, I think I had $5. So I gave her $1. I said, just go play penny machines or something. I got to be alone. I said, all right. So what I do is I soften my focus, right? Like kind of close my eyes a little bit, just enough to see. And then I'm walking, and then I'm looking at the machines, and then I get a feel for which one is what. So and it had to be dollar machines. So I picked this one on the end, and I go, this is the one. I have $4. In those days, you could just put in, money and then pull the handle. That's none of this, what they do today.
Right.
So I sit down, I put in, you had to play three coins. 1, 2, 3, pull the handle. I got a cherry. So that gave me a couple more dollars. did that a couple of times, Then I looked at the machine next to it and going, oh, I think it's this one. So I move over, put in 3, win a cherry, and then I go, no. It was this one. So I move over. I have $3 left. I put 1, 2, 3, pull the handle, ding, 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 ding. I win $10,000.
Whoa. Yeah.
So, the machine's going crazy. I have a splitting headache because my neck is out. And all these people are like, oh, congratulations. And I'm thinking, okay, the chick is going to come over and get my Social Security and whatever. Well, they didn't take any money out of it. So they gave me in cash $10,000. And I'm like, holy shit. So I'm putting
no.
I'm putting all this cash in my pocket because I don't know what else to do with it, right? And I'm thinking, okay, where is she? And here she comes. She comes over. She goes, well, did you win? I go, yes. She goes, what did you win? And I go, 10,000. She goes, 10,000 what? And I go, dollars.
10,000 pennies.
No. Right. I go, $10,000. She goes, and I go, just okay. But anyway, so we ended up getting a hotel there or whatever. But I knew, I was able to do that many times, not at that level of winning, but I would win. I would just know. And so my psychic ability was starting to, and I was paying attention to what was popping in my head. And I found that very interesting because I've always been interested in past lives. I went to the Monroe Institute in 96 to learn out of body because I knew I was going out of body at night and I wanted to kind of learn more about it. Joe McMoneagle was there as a guest and he taught us to do some remote viewing. So I went home and then tried that and it was pretty cool. So I've always, been interested in all this stuff, which I believe is all related. Like everything is related.
Yeah, I believe that too.
And so, I don't know. It's just.
Do you think that your psychic abilities were developed or initiated by the UFO contact?
Well, my belief is that we all are psychic, have psychic ability. But the thing about human beings are we were never taught to believe in everything. Oh, that's not possible or whatever. And I think that's wrong. We should teach children that everything's possible. So I already believe that we all are psychic, but there's a part of me that believes that that this UFO phenomenon maybe helped hone it in some way. But the minute I started to realize things were that I could do certain things, or I knew what was going to kind of happen before they happened, I really started to pay attention to that little voice. And, so if something popped in my head, I'd pay attention to it. And so it really made me realize just to keeping an open mind about all that, and then I would know things that would happen ahead of time. Like I knew that I was going to see this UFO a few years ago. I was out barbecuing steaks on my patio on the second floor here, and I faced due east, and the steaks were going, and I look out, and I had a premonition. I said, I'm going to see a UFO. I know it. And so I told Liz to come out and check out her steak. And I said, hey, I think I'm going to see a UFO. She goes, what? And I go, yeah. And so I'm standing there and I'm looking, and sure enough, there are these two white lights just hovering not too far away. And I said, hey, look. And she goes, what the hell is that? She's looking. I go, I told you I was going to see a UFO. And then I says, would you say that those are two separate lights? She goes, no, those two lights are part of an object. I said, okay, that's what I thought. She goes, because her eyes are better than mine. And she says, I could see that those lights were a part of something solid.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so as we're talking about it and looking at it, the lights kind of brighten, then dim, and then it starts to go. I go, it's moving away, right? She goes, yep. And I go, shit. So I knew it was going to be there. Yeah.
Yeah, I call that the spidey sense. when you feel them in the area. A lot of us do have experiences like that. We've got a couple of drawings that you sent me. Can you explain these?
Yes. This one is a case that I did. This happened in 2009. I was the chief investigator up in Oregon, MUFON. And at that time, I was part of the SIP project. So this case actually was flagged to be a SIP case, but how it works is that I had to call him and get all the information and then see about, them allowing me to come to do a live investigation. Well, basically, this case is in my book. I love this drawing because it really kind of shows you what he experienced. So I'm going to use his name as Frank. So Frank was inside with his wife and they were watching, I think it was Melrose Place. And then he kind of got bored and said, I'm going to go outside with his new green laser. And it was about 9:30, he said. So he goes outside. His neighbor was out there and he walked over and they were just chit-chatting. And he says, oh, I got this new 5 milliwatt green laser. And he goes, oh, cool. And then he looks up and he sees this. He says, I'm pretty sure it was rectangular, but it was an object in the sky. The edges weren't as defined as he would think it would have been, but he shined the laser on this thing and it produces all these colors, kind of like an abalone shell. And they were both kind of going, whoa, what the heck is that? Now, the thing is, this Interstate 5 was running parallel to where he was. And there was a billboard. You could see it in the drawing. So there, how billboards kind of lit up. And that actually helped him see this object clear. I think if it would have been dark with no billboard or no lights, he may have not have noticed it. This object, he says it's here in his drawing here, that it was 1,000 to 1,500 feet from the street. It wasn't really that high up. And it was pretty close. So they're standing there and I said, how long were you out there before you saw this? He said, about 15 minutes. So if he went out there about 9:30, and then it's 9:45, and now he sees this object, and now they're looking at it, and he says, I go, and then what happened? And he goes, well, it was strange because my neighbor just turned and walked away, like went home. And he thought, well, that's odd. So he looked at and he realizes he couldn't see the object anymore. So he was out there another 15 minutes or so, hoping to see it, if he could see it again. And he's standing out there alone and he's thinking, well, it's gone. So I said to him, so we're looking about 10 o'clock, 10:05. He said, yeah. And he goes, and I came in the house. He says, but what was strange was when I got in the house, my wife was already in bed. And she doesn't go to bed this early. She likes to watch the 11 o'clock news. So he goes in the bedroom she's in bed, and he kind of tells her, hey, I had a weird sighting of something. And that's all, basically what was said. So I said, can you do me a favor? Can you talk with your wife, find out what was the last program she saw on TV? Did she watch the news? And, find out what time she went to bed. Well, when he's questioning her, she said, yeah, I went to bed around 11:30. And then he goes, huh. And then he goes, well, you were already asleep when I came in. And she goes, that doesn't make sense. I would never go to bed without finding out where you were, or, telling you good night. And that really freaked her out, because she says, I don't understand that. Like, I would never do that.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're both kind of perplexed over the time. And then he calls me back the next day to let me know what he said to his wife and what she said. So it looks like, there was probably an hour and a half missing time, because she likes to look at the news, and if he feels like he's only been out there a half hour, right? 9:30 to 10, should have been 10 o'clock when he came in, but it wasn't. It was after, like, so she's thinking about 11:30. That she went to bed. And so we're thinking hour and a half that I was thinking that. I don't say that to them at all. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, and then he goes, well, that tells me there's like an hour or so missing. And I said, like that. And then he goes, what do you think? And I go, well, you're saying you went in the house at 10, but she went to bed at 11:30. And he goes, man, something happened. Now, here's the thing. This guy has had a lot of UFO sightings, a lot of entity sightings, and I didn't know it at the time that he was having entity sightings in his own home.
Mm-hmm.
And all this, because he didn't bring it up, and she doesn't really want to talk about it. Like, because I said, can I get permission to come? Because I wanted this to be a SIP case, because then I would be deployed.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, would it be okay that I come and do a live investigation? I would love to come and do a live investigation and see where you were standing and where this thing was in the sky. And he goes, well, I'll have to ask my wife. I said, okay, let me know. And then he called me the following day and said, I'm sorry, but my wife doesn't want me to be involved. She doesn't want you to come here. She just wants to sweep this under the rug. I said, I'm sorry. And he goes, yeah, I'm sorry. Because I think he really wanted to explore it more.
Mm-hmm.
But I think she was like, she put the kibosh. Yeah, no. Yeah, because it really freaked her out.
That happens a lot with couples, doesn't it?
Yes.
One understands and the other one doesn't.
Right. And, just a little more about this case. He did go the next day and knock on the door to his neighbor and said, hey, what happened to you yet last night? And he goes, what do you mean? And he goes, you just turned around and walked home. And he goes, I don't know what you're talking about. He goes, what? No, last night we saw that weird object and my laser hit it. And then he goes, oh, yeah. He totally had forgotten.
Uh-huh.
And he goes, yeah, that was weird. Wow. And then that was basically it. So I never said this to him because, our job is not to scare these witnesses. Our job is not to say, yes, you've been abducted, or yes, you had missing time.
Right.
My job is just to get a timeline. What happened, then what happened, then what happened. I'm not here to scare anybody. So, yeah, so he was very, very perplexed over the fact that the guy, his neighbor, just walked away and then forgot about it until he brought in to his mind the details.
Sure.
But I think the neighbor was shut off and he was taken. That's just my...
It sounds like it. It's logical.
But who knows? I mean, I wasn't there, and, we'll never know unless, somebody goes under regression, maybe can give a timeline of what they remember. But
yeah,
anyway, this guy had, he got a hold of me years later. This happened in 2009, and I just spoke with him last year. He had gotten in contact with me and was saying, you wouldn't believe the stuff that's been going on. And I said, well, please share. Yeah. So he's had a lot of entity in this home and a lot of,
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, lots of activity with this man. So.
Well, Deb, thank you so much for being on the program with me this evening. You're fascinating. I'd love to have you come back sometime. How can people get a hold of your book?
It is on Amazon. I actually have local meetings here in Roseville, and I do bring copies to sign and sell there as well. But yeah, it is on sale at Amazon.
Awesome. Dev Rugne, thank you so much for being a guest this evening with me. Hang out for a little bit there in the green room, and I'll be right with you.
Thank you again, Margie. It was a pleasure.
All right. Well, that is another episode of MUFON Midwest. We went a little long, but that's okay because Dev is fascinating, and those stories were just amazing. So I'll see you here again next week. The MUFON Midwest podcast is a production by Unex Media. I'm your host, Margie Kay. The producers are Race Hobbs and Bill Skywatcher. Copyright 2026 by Margie Kay and MUFON. This is the Central Region MUFON podcast, and our website is MUFONCentralRegion.org. If you've had a UFO encounter and would like to be a guest on the program, please contact me at MUFONCentralRegionDIR@gmail.com. To file a UFO report, go to MUFON.com. That's MUFON.com.